Hey everyone, Jim Branscombe here, back again for another edition of In the Mouth of Cinemadness. This is a sub-series of the Cinematic Void vlog where I talk about the movies I saw, in my teens, during college, mid-20s, 30s, even up to now that basically inspired me or continue to inspire me to do what I do with Cinematic Void. Today, I am not talking about one movie. I'm actually talking about 4 movies. I'm not going to be going in depth, but I'm going to talk about how these 4 movies were all packaged together and the impact they had on me, which is the GIALLO collection that was put out by Anchor Bay Entertainment in 2002. I was in college at the time. I was studying film at Towson University when this came out, and to be honest, my only real interaction with the genre of GIALLO was Dario Argento, because that was the most widely available. So I was really stoked to see that Anchor Bay was putting out this GIALLO collection, because one, I've been interested in seeing more movies in the genre and was really happy to have them all nicely packaged together. I think I bought my set at Best Buy, which might sound weird now, but there was a period in the late 90s to like maybe mid 2000s that Best Buy was actually really good about stocking pretty much everything. They had like a really good CD section. They had an incredible DVD and VHS section. I bought all kinds of things from Anchor Bay, Blue Underground, Severn Films. All those cult labels were actually getting good distribution in Best Buy, and it was just this smorgasbord of cult cinema. So I was really stoked to be able to pick up this box set. Now, I don't remember which of the 4 movies I checked out first, so I'm just going to kind of generally go in order. And since 2 of the movies are by the same director, I figured might as well start with those. There are 2 movies directed by Aldo Lato, which are Short Night of Glass Dolls and Who Saw Her Die. Short Night stars John Sorrell, who basically is on a morgue slab throughout most of the movie, and he's having flashbacks about how he got there. He's not really dead, but everyone thinks he's dead because he's not moving. He's under some kind of weird poison paralysis. So he's just kind of piecing together everything that led him to get there. Now, there's some people that don't consider this really a giallo, but I think there's enough there that makes it one. There's definitely a mystery element. Plus, the movie itself is really unique. It's very Kafka-esque and definitely different than a lot of the giallo films that were made during the period or just made in general. And I remember watching it and just I love the title. I love that there's a minor dummy drop in it. And it was an interesting thing. The way the mystery unraveled I really got into it. For the other Aldo Lato movie is actually one of my all-time favorite giallo films, and if you want to see where it lands on my top 10 giallo film list, if you haven't yet, go check out that video. But of course, I'm talking about Who Saw Her Die, which is very, very kind of in the same turf as Don't Look Now, even though it predates Don't Look Now by a year. It stars George Lazenby, former James Bond, and Anita Strindberg, who was in tons of giallo films, a lot of the Martino ones like Case of the Scorpion's Tail and Your Vice is a Locked Room and Only Have a Key. Basically, their daughter gets murdered, which is kind of reminiscent of a murder that happened previously, so you get that whole mystery element. It takes place in Venice. It's just really, really well done, really dark. There's a black glove killer, but those gloves aren't leather. They're I don't know, knitted, I guess. And it's really creepy, really effective, really well done. And while Short Night of Glass Dolls has a minor dummy drop, Who Saw Her Die has a really epic one, so definitely was really into that. And this one's more traditional of the giallo genre than Short Night of Glass Dolls, but I like them both, although some people might find them a bit of a slow burn, and if you're not into slow burning type films, they might not be for you. The 3rd film in the collection that I ended up really liking a lot at the time, it might have been my favorite out of the 4 back in the day. I still like it a lot, but obviously your taste and preference kind of meld and mix, and this one's not in my top 10, but it's definitely probably at least in the top 15. I'm talking about the BLOODSTAINED SHADOw. It's actually kind of late for a giallo film. It came out in 78, which was kind of way past the prime, where it kind of ended at 72, 73, falling into the post Deep Red gialli that would pop up, like Fulci's The Psychic. Director Antonio Biddo also directed Watch Me When I Kill. The film stars Lino Capoluccio, who was in House of the Laughing Windows, a great kind of slow burn, underrated giallo, and Stefano Cassina, who's best known for being in Dario Argento's Suspiria, as well as Blood for Dracula. For this giallo, it kind of treads back to Who Saw Her Die with there's some child murder subplots in there, and kind of a brother comes back to visit his brother, who's now a priest at a church, so you get a little bit of that religious aspect in there. There's some good kills in it. There's a lady that's in a wheelchair that gets like thrown into like a fireplace, which is really brutal. Also, it features an incredible score, which is composed by Stelvo Cipriani, who's done lots of amazing scores for many Italian genre films. But the most interesting fact about it, although they're not credited, Goblin actually plays the score. So it's a melding of two Italian soundtrack powerhouses collaborating, which most people won't realize because Goblin's not in credit. It's actually one of my favorite Goblin scores. I wouldn't put it above, you know, kind of the Argento canon of things, but it's really solid, and if you can find a copy, definitely check it out. Now, the final movie in this box set, which was probably my second favorite upon my original watching, and again, I'd easily say, though it's not in my top 10, it's at least in my top 15, which is The Case of the Bloody Iris. It's kind of feels like a Sergio Martino movie, although at the time I saw it, I hadn't seen any Martino movies, but, you know, it was written by Ernesto Gastaldi, who, you know, worked with Martino on all of his major Giallo films. Stars Edwidge Fenech and George Hilton, who've obviously been in their fair share of Martino movies. It was produced by Luciano Martino, who is Sergio's brother, and also produced a lot of Sergio's movies, specifically the Giallo stuff, and he was also one time married to Edwidge Fenech. And it has a score by Bruno Nicolai, which, again, another frequent Sergio Martino collaborator. The film also has a couple similar plot points to Martino's All the Colors of Dark. Fenwich's character in this movie basically was part of a hippie sex cult that gets out, and now she's being stalked by a killer. Where All the Colors Dark is basically she goes and starts hanging out with a satanic cult to help her recover from some trauma that's embedded in her, and then gets stalked by a killer. So, kind of a little bit of the same, but not really. It's really well done. There's a nasty elevator murder in it. So that was my first exposure to Giallo films outside of Dario Argento, and I was kind of hooked. Shortly after that, or maybe a few years later, there was other home video labels like Media Blasters under their Shriek Show kind of sub-label, and No Shame, which was a really great label that unfortunately no longer exists. They started putting out a lot of Italian exploitation films and a lot of Giallo films. Although I wouldn't say at the time that Giallo was my favorite subgenre, it kind of began an obsession that kind of just grew and grew, and made me want to search out more of those films. So that's my introduction to Giallo films outside the Argento canon. Sound off in the comments or hit me up on social media. Tell me what was your first non-Argento related Giallo that you watched. And, you know, tell me what your favorites are. And if you haven't already seen my top 10 Giallo film list, definitely go check it out. Until next time, see you in the void.
Murder isn't a joke, for heaven's sake, you idiot!